Already being a Twitter convert, there's no doubt that I will continue to use Twitter after Information Programs finishes. There may, however, be differences in the way that I use it, given the consideration of Twitter's capacity to construct a personal learning network. The concept of an official personal learning network is not something that I had specifically thought about before beginning this subject. Yet, looking back over the past few years of tweeting, I can see how my very own personal learning network has grown and developed, and it has done so in a very organic, flexible, and sometimes random fashion. Those characteristics, the random, flexible, and organic qualities of Twitter, are what make it so attractive for me. As I mentioned in my Week 2 vlog, when I signed up for Twitter, I didn't know what I was getting into. I just knew that I was hearing things about it via blogs and other information sources on the internet. People whose blogs I read regularly were twittering, so I decided to jump in and join them. I felt like if I didn't, I might be missing out on something. Looking back a few years later, I think I was right. I would have missed out on a great deal without Twitter. In fact, as I remarked to a Twitter friend who I recently met in person, I don't know how I survived without it. Here's why. Living in Bundaberg is lovely most of the time. The sky is blue, the traffic is very manageable, people are generally friendly. They smile at you if you're out walking. They'll stop to help strangers in the street. You know, all that stereotypical small town community stuff. My close family is here, which is important to me, and I have good friends and colleagues. However, not many of them are interested in all the same things that I am. That is, I have no one to talk to about cultural studies, television studies, comedy, research, writing, study, and other such things. Poor me. Stop your crying, it's not that sad. Because what Twitter initially offered me was a virtual community where I could read about those things, where I could interact with others who want to talk about those things as well. As my use of Twitter continued, something interesting happened. I realised that as well as people, I could follow organisations, things, bands, and famous people. I could keep up with local, national, and worldwide news without having to turn on the TV. What's more, I could interact with other people about these things. For instance, I could follow the Triple J Hottest 100 countdown without having to listen to the radio. I followed the news of the world hacking scandal without once turning on the telly. I got the complete picture of Rupert Murdoch receiving a foam pie in the face, courtesy of tweets. Most importantly, I could watch the Eurovision Song Contest at home by myself, but with other people to talk to via Twitter. In all these ways, Twitter is a way of connecting to a, dare I say it, a social network, and a way of feeling part of a global community. SBS tells us that the world is an amazing place. Through the magic of Twitter, the world suddenly becomes very small. In fact, it shrinks down into a stream of thoughts that are 140 characters or less. The microness of Twitter is something that I believe is part of its attraction. I think it taps into a universal human quality to want to express our individuality and connect with others. Sometimes the world around us seems very impersonal and unfriendly as we deal with big corporations and businesses. Twitter lets the personal back into the public sphere. As I was thinking about this over the last few days, two quotes came to mind, which are also about how the often overlooked details of daily life can actually express grander ideas and themes. Commenting on her writing in comparison to the style of other novelists of the day, Jane Austen famously quoted, "What should I do with your strong, manly, spirited sketches full of variety and glow? How could I possibly join them on to the little bit, 2 inches wide, of ivory on which I work with so fine a brush as produces little effect after much labour? Now, Wendy, you may ask, how dare you make a connection between Jane Austen and Twitter? Well, I can but try, all the while keeping in mind that I am not, in any way, shape or form, a Jane Austen scholar. However, I love the way this quote describes the way Austen's novels could at first glance seem to be rather superficial. What are they about? The details of daily life for her characters, their conversations, their frustrations, their joys, their sadness, their anger, their disappointments, their dreams. Through these portraits of family and social life, Jane Austen manages to paint a bigger picture of the status of women in the early 19th century, of the restrictions of the class system for men and for women, of religion, of education, of cultural and social mores. All of these themes emerge from the fine brush on the miniature piece of ivory. Twitter strikes me in the same way. While perhaps we do not always labour over our tweets, at any one time a snapshot of the Twitter stream paints a picture of a day, or a month, or a year. Our own Twitter profiles can also be drawn together to construct an identity for us. While we may tweet, as one of my friends claims to, about random things, these random tweets organically join together to shape a person, and that person is part of the Twitter network. Who is @WendyL Davis? Take a look at my Twitter feed and you will be able to stitch the tweets together and find out. The second quote that popped into my mind when considering the micro aspect of Twitter as a blogging application was from Seinfeld. No surprises there. Articulating her frustration at the apparent narrowness of her life, Elaine Bennis bursts at one point with the following statement: "I can't spend the rest of my life coming into this stinking apartment every 10 minutes to pore over the excruciating minutiae of every single daily event." For those of you familiar with Seinfeld, you will recognise the resonance between Elaine's statement and the central theme of Seinfeld, which is that it's a show about nothing. However, like the seemingly insignificant incidental events in Jane Austen's novels, the nothingness of Seinfeld is in fact a somethingness. It is the minutiae of everyday life that is everyday life. We can't all be doing outstanding things all the time. Sometimes life is just about eating breakfast, grabbing a coffee, and gossiping with our friends. Those activities in themselves are what constitute a community, and by exporting them into tweet form, Twitter allows individuals to create a virtual community where we can revel in the minutiae of daily life. Again, as in Austen's novels and Seinfeld, that minutiae produces a continuous undulating flow that represents a world in bite-sized chunks of 140 characters or less. It allows individual users to find resonances with other users, make connections, sometimes brief, sometimes long-lasting, and in doing so, it creates a personal network. I suppose the final question to reflect on then is that of learning. Sure, Twitter's network can be as personal as you want it to be, but how does it constitute a learning network? With persistence, effort, and respect for the etiquette of Twitter, it can open up a wonderful space for learning, both personal and professional. The network can be supportive, with offers of assistance, answers to questions, and general encouragement. The network can be informative, particularly by following relevant professional organisations and other news outlets. And most of all, the network is participatory. By tweeting, individuals like you and I not only expand our learning network, we have the potential to join the networks of other Twitter users. Random connections can grow into permanent ones. Your network can grow organically at different paces and times, depending on your Twitter commitment. And your network is flexible. As Twitter users, we can control who we follow and who follows us. We can shape Twitter as a personal learning network to suit our own needs, and I think, ultimately, that is the beauty of Twitter as one cog in my personal learning network. I can generate, control, and build the network according to my own design. It need not be coherent or solely focused on one topic. Rather, it can reach out in all directions as the mood and need dictates. In that, it resonates with what it is to be human in the age of technology.